Hey. So I'm doing a car video before anyone says anything. It is properly, secured on my dashboard, and it's hands-free and all that jazz. And I'm gonna concentrate on driving and just speak as if I had passengers in the car. Okay, so Natalie asked me to make we were chatting and I said I would make a quick video about coaching skills, because we've been chatting a little about working with your team and getting the best out of your team. And it's definitely a skill, a learned skill. And there are some things that are kind of common mistakes that I definitely made when I started leading a team, and I thought I'd give you a bit of a heads up on them. So first thing is just to explain. So coaching is very different to giving advice, okay? If sometimes, and it takes more time, but it's way more effective long term. So sometimes a team member will come to you and they'll say, you know, I'm struggling with whatever. And your immediate response might be to go, try this, try that, try the other. Okay, that's advice. And sometimes that's fine. Like if it's just a quick fix thing, that that's totally fine. But actually, other times, coaching is far more effective. So coaching, rather than telling someone what to do, is questioning and kind of leading them to kind of come to a solution themselves. It does take more time. I keep saying this, but it does take more time. But trust me, by coaching your team, you will build independent presenters who can then coach their own teams. And you'll know if you've been coached by me because you're watching this video. So basically, you'll know you've been coached by me if you know what I'm going to say before I even say it. And that's the position you want to be in with your presenters. So how to coach. So let me give you a scenario. A presenter comes to you and they say, or you reach out to them, let me give you this as an example. You reach out to them and you say to them, how are things going? And they say, yeah, not bad, I'm struggling a bit though. Okay, and you might say, well, what are you struggling with? And they'll say, no one's purchasing anything, no one's making any, I'm not making any sales. Quite often, your immediate response might be to go in there with, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you being consistent? Are you posting every day? Are you, sharing videos? Have you made an unboxing video? Have you made a welcome video? How many people have you got in your group? Coaching is saying to her, okay, tell me what you've done. And then just shut up and let her tell you. Because you want her to be thinking it through for herself, rather than you just saying, have you tried this, have you tried that, have you tried the other? So talk to me about what you've done, and have you had any thoughts about what else you might try? You're leading her on having her answer questions. Now, sometimes with coaching, you'll get a bit of pushback because they genuinely don't know the answer, or they haven't really thought about something, and you need to just get really, really good at kind of questioning. Ask lots of questions. That's what coaching is. It's asking lots of questions. And it's questions like, have you thought about how you might do that differently? Or what have you considered trying? Or what are you thinking you're going to do? What's your plan? Rather than, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried the other? Because if you say to her, have you tried this? That basically the answer to that is either yes or no. Okay? You want questions that are going to let her explore things. You want questions that are going to get her thinking and help her work it out for herself. And the reason this is so valuable is because sometimes you'll be working with someone and they'll have come to you and they'll have said, I'm struggling with X, Y, or Z, and you'll have gone back to them with advice. So you'll have said, okay, why don't you go and do this? And she'll be like, oh yeah, all right. And then a couple of days later, you'll touch base with her again and you'll be like, how did you get on with whatever? And you'll get frustrated because she'll say, oh, I haven't done it. And often the reason that people haven't done things is because they've not bought into the idea in the first place. And the reason they've not bought into the idea in the first place is because it was never their idea. It was your idea. You told them what to do and they weren't really sold on it, because it feels like you're telling them what to do and they're not really understanding fully the process of how to get there and how they got there and how they made that decision. So by you coaching them rather than advising them more frequently, you'll get more results, because you'll get girls coming up with ideas for themselves and running with it, basically. It'll also help you to understand what your presenters feel comfortable with. So it's all well and good saying, okay, well, why don't you go and make a mascara video? If she's never made a video and she's terrified of making a video, and you say, why don't you go and make a mascara video? She might not feel comfortable enough saying to you, I don't know if I can. Plus then you're going to say to her, well, of course you can. Do you know what I mean? So you could say to her, okay, she says whatever, and you could say, okay, well, what have you seen that you think you might like to try, or what have you seen other people doing that you think might work for you? Okay, so, and then it's led by her. It's in a place where she's comfortable. It's in a place where she feels confident. You might be eking her a little out of her comfort zone, but you're not pushing her out of her comfort zone to a place where she's just not going to take that action, which is what so frequently happens when you give advice rather than coach. Now, there are occasions when, if it's someone that's just brand new and she comes to you and she says, what can I do about? Sometimes advice is great, you know, sometimes just like, oh, okay, well, what about try this? But one thing I do think is really important to do is that before you give advice, that you ask if you can give advice. So even if you reach out to somebody particularly, rather than them come to you, and let's be honest, 9 times out of 10 it's us going to them. If you reach out to someone and say, how's it going? And they say, well, I'm really struggling, I've not made any sales, I've tried everything. They always say, I've tried everything. They never have. But you can't, you know, depending on who it is, sometimes you can say everything. Sometimes that doesn't go down so well. So, but if you go to them and they say, how's it going? And they say, oh, it's not going so great. And you can say, okay, well, tell me about it. What's going on for you? What have you been doing? You know, and what kind of responses? And then if you think, right, she does need a little bit of guidance, she needs a bit of advice, then say to her, okay, can I have a look in your group and maybe give you some feedback? Would that be okay? And, you know, and let her say to you that would be okay. And then don't bombard her. Like, you want to be sort of, give her 3 things to think about if you're giving her advice. Literally, like, you know, try this, try this, try this. And make sure that she's clear about specifically what you're giving her, because it can otherwise just be like that you throw a load of stuff at her and she feels overwhelmed, she doesn't know where to start. Some presenters will just need one thing. You can say to them, why don't you try X? But I would always, if you can, coach rather than advise. So what have you tried? What are you thinking about trying? What do you fancy trying? What do you need? Do you know what I mean? What are you feeling comfortable with? Is there something that you're not feeling comfortable with that I can help you with? And use feel, felt, found. It's such a useful coaching technique. And different presenters will respond in different ways. It depends on their personality type. Some presenters will want and appreciate a bit of hand holding, and they will appreciate you saying, do this, do this. But those presenters, longer term, are way more labour intensive, because you've got to do it every time. Whereas other presenters, that if you coach them and they're open to being coached, then it takes a bit of time up front, but they become so much more independent and they start working it out for themselves. And just with that in mind, if someone comes to you, I think we all do this anyway, but just to make it easy for you, if someone comes to you and asks you for something and you know that that answer is readily available, then don't feel bad about going back to them and saying, it's on the website, or it's in this YouTube video, or, you know, it's in this document. Don't just feel like you've got to give them the answers all the time. I know that we've talked about this a few times, so don't worry if I'm repeating myself. So I hope that's helpful. I've rambled on for like 9 minutes, but, you know, like we say, share, don't sell, coach, don't preach. Okay? You want to be moving girls into a place where they can do some of this thought processing for themselves, and putting that little bit of time in with coaching them. Lots of questions, and write stuff down. When you speak to a presenter, have a notebook, like, with all your unique stuff in, and when you've spoken to her, put a date of who you spoke to and what date you spoke to her, and make a note in your diary of when you're going to follow up with her. You know, that's your job. that's kind of your support role is there to give her that advice and that support. And if you do that, and if you show her that you're reliable and that you show up for things, she will very quickly find her feet and be much more independent. But she'll be independent and strong rather than independent and actually ready to give up. So I hope that's helpful. I am happy to help a bit more with, this is just basic coaching stuff. So if there's anything you're not sure of, then drop me a message and I'll try and dig out some more coaching training. There's loads floating about, and I hope that's helpful. Okay, I will speak to you later. Bye.